This is the Night Shift Podcast, powered by Black and Gold Banneret, your home for news and analysis from all UCF night sports. The Night Shift starts now.
Actually, I want to keep Don and Bryson here for a couple of moments here because obviously focus on football. Arizona State will be covering that this week. But there's also the start of college basketball season. This season begins Monday night. UCF against top 15 ranked Texas A&M here in Orlando at UCF. Don will be there. A cast of thousands will be there. Women's basketball gets going Tuesday night against Iona. Bryson will be there for that. So I want your thoughts here quick thoughts on the basketball season. I don't know if we'll do a podcast prior to the opener on Monday about both teams' seasons or not, but none. So I rather want to get your thoughts here. Final thought, Don. Start with you. Big one for Johnny Dawkins and company. UCF men's basketball against A&M. Still up in the air. Questions about Jalen Sellers' status. Some good news I've heard over the weekend about Dior Johnson. I think he's going to be okay there, but big test against Texas A&M to start on Monday night.
Yeah, I agree. It is a big test. And in the last exhibition game, we seen them get routed by Georgia, so
this exhibition.
I know it's exhibition, but it's an SEC team and they're about to face a top 15 ranked SEC team. And so, it's going to be a tough test, but it's going to be really characteristic. I think maybe this is looking too far ahead. I think it's going to be characteristic of how they handle the Big 12. Even if they lose this game, if they can hang, it's going to give me confidence for their Big 12 schedule. And obviously, like I've talked about on previous shows, this is a very deep guard room. 11 new players, 9 of which are transfers, highlighted by the acquisition of Mikey Williams. And now with the Jalen Sellers injury and some uncertainty around when he's coming back, we might see more of Mikey. We're going to see what Dior Johnson can do, and we're going to see how Darius Johnson can lead this backcourt without his backcourt running mate with him. He was strong against FGCU. Obviously, the second exhibition game didn't go as well, but like you said, it's just exhibition, and we'll see what they do. I'd say outside of FAU, I mean, this is going to be the hardest non-con game, with, in my opinion, FAU being second.
No. I would put that tournament in West Virginia where they got Wisconsin, potentially Pitt as tougher. Pitt was an NCAA, a team that's been, 2 years ago made the NCAA tournament Sweet 16, just missed the tournament last year. I think Wisconsin was a 20-game winner program. I would say right there in mix. FAU's got a lot of questions, and this is not the Final Four FAU team.
No, it's not. But I mean, they had a decent season last year.
No doubt.
Despite not having that Final Four success that they recently enjoyed. But nevertheless, this is going to be the month of November and December is going to provide some interesting tests for this team ahead of Big 12 play. And it's a long season, and we're going to see how they respond in these moments, because college basketball is characterized by upsets. So they can't just go into certain games thinking, oh, these are the ones we got to prepare for while we sleep on other teams, because you can very well lose to a Tennessee Tech or Jacksonville. And so we're going to see what they do. Obviously, this is a defensive first team, even though they are lined with offensive talent. And we're going to see how Coach Dawkins brings it all together. And it's going to be fun to see the results. I am incredibly excited for Monday night.
Interested to see if they have enough rim protection, too, for their defense. Or the assignments defensively. They struggled guarding the three-point line in the 2 exhibition games. I think those are some things to watch from a team that's got literally, 9 to 10 new faces. I mean, they got
11 total. And, 11,
I
mean, especially down low. I mean, with Mustafa Chiom and Rokas, they're going to have to be ready to play some physical ball. They're going to have to play smart, stay out of foul trouble, and really just lock down that paint for their team so that they can get out and transition better. Good defense opens up the offense. And I think that's why Johnny Dawkins places such a heavy emphasis on defense first. So yeah, Elo and Bryson, it's going to be a fun time. I've been waiting for this moment since I joined you guys, and we're right on the cusp.
Mark Soskin writing in, by the way, A&M ranked 13th in one of the polls, favored 4.5-point favorite. UCF loaded with guards, but least deep in the front court. Benny Johnson, a pleasant surprise at forward so far. You agree with that about Benny?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Benny was awesome in the first game, or the first exhibition game. I did not get to
Curry's
see
been good too. Curry's been good.
Yeah. Jordan Ivy Curry is awesome. I mean, even though he didn't shoot well in that game against FGCU, he was the team's leader in assists. I think he's got good court vision, and I think that he will provide a nice break, so to speak, for Darius, or if Darius is playing off the ball, if they wanted to go with a smaller backcourt, they could roll with Jordan and he could be the facilitator. Darius can focus on scoring, or vice versa, because let's not forget, Jordan averaged, I believe, over 17 points a game last season. So one of the new faces that can bring a good scoring boost to this team, amongst other things. But yeah, Benny Johnson has been a great surprise. He's very physical. He plays like a true big, even if he's not quite that size. And so I think that he's going to be very pivotal and sort of an X factor down there in the front court.
Bryson, you'll be at the women's opener, Cynthia Messer and company. What year is this for Coach Messer now here at UCF? Is it her third year?
Yeah, she had, yes, I believe she had 1, 2. Because year 1 was the last year of the American, last year 2. This year is going to be year
Very good. See, that's why you're here. Your thoughts, what to expect opener against Iona? They're going to be heavy favorites there. The big one there is on the Thursday night. I believe they play Marquette. But I think people want to see some progress out of the women's basketball program, certainly some positives, because it's not gone well for women's sports in this fall, with volleyball and women's soccer struggling. So what can we expect here for Coach Messer in year 3?
Well, Coach Messer said during media day she has a lot more bullets on this squad. Their exhibition was against Edward Waters, so might not be as telling as something that would be like a Georgia or FGCU. But when you look at the roster, you got Caitlin Peterson coming back, of course, but you also have Hannah Gusters, who's been getting some praise around the college basketball. Kyle Nagodu is coming back once again with another year older. She had her moments last year. And then she also has Nevaeh Brown, grad student from ETSU, coming in. I remember talking to Akot, the forward, coming out, and she was talking about how she was working on herself during this offseason as well. And then you have true freshmen like Emily Rodriguez, Summer Yancey, Adiane Ring, and Arik Angui. So you have. I'm very interested to see who she ends up playing on this one, but I do see the talent here. I really do. The biggest key that I think I'm going to look out for with Iona is how much is Caitlin Peterson going to be putting this team on her back? Because if she's already doing that against Iona, then that might not bode well with Marquette. The best way I can describe it is that Caitlin Peterson is, in my opinion, is like how McKenna Melville was with volleyball. She needs to be the person you go to when you need something to get done. I think that KP has proven herself as that kind of player, but she needs to have a supporting cast behind her. And that's what I think Coach Messer worked on over this offseason. Even the previous year, recruiting Akot and Nagodu and playing them as much as she did last year. Not only do you want to get those two on the court together more and get them more court time, but you also want to give KP enough of a supporting cast so that way she doesn't have to do it alone all the time and be able to open her up on the floor. So I'll be very interested to see how that works out. There's plenty of freshmen she'll be able to go to. We'll see how much they end up playing. But I think my eyes are going to be on KP and how much she ends up getting the ball, because after Iona, they have a tough one in Marquette coming to town.
Both of you, give me a player, Don on the men's side, Bryce on the women's side. Give me a name of a player, not the star player. Give me a name of a player that you think is a key that could be the barometer for how the season goes.
I would say Jordan Ivy Curry for the men's. I think like I was just alluding to, he has good court vision. When he's not scoring, he can be your assist guy. He put together a strong campaign at UTSA last season. Now we'll see how he transitions into Big 12 play, playing for a more major program in a more major conference. But I think he's ready for the moment, and I think he's going to provide some great depth for this team. And then for the women's side, I'm really looking forward to seeing Nevaeh Brown play. I mean, she led her team at ETSU in pretty much every offensive statistical category last season. She's a good perimeter shooter. And I think that she will also provide a boost beyond Caitlin Peterson, because we have to remember about this women's team. Peterson was the only, not only did she lead the Big 12, that was impressive, like in terms of scoring, but she was the only Knight to average double-digit figures in scoring. The next closest was Maya Burns, I believe, with like almost 10 points a game. She was at 9.9 last time I checked the statistics. And so I think that Nevaeh Brown, I'm not exactly sure what her role is going to be, probably coming off the bench behind Layla Jewett, possibly, but I think that she could be an X factor for this team as well, and a nice surprise.
Well, interesting. You actually say that, because I'm actually looking on women's basketball blog, because I have this monitor over here to check my notes, and Layla Jewett is actually not on the roster anymore with the roster page.
What?
And she's not on the roster, so I looked her up, and WBBblog.com, the website that we use to keep track of the women's basketball transfer portal. I use that a lot. They have Layla Jewett listed as in the transfer portal as a graduate transfer. It says she entered on October 28th, which was a few days
last past week. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't. So I mean, I know you mentioned that, but I think she's not on the roster anymore. So I'm inclined to say that I think Jewett is actually out.
Wow. Sorry, Bryson.
Yeah.
You continue.
Breaking news, Bryson here. This is breaking news you just broke here.
Absolutely so. I mean, that is it. I mean, I don't know what that means. Maybe it means that the best I could see is that I knew that this guard group was also relatively deep, especially when you factor in the utility guard forwards and Summer Yancey and Emily Rodriguez, the two true freshmen. I wonder if keep in mind, I'm only speculating here. The only reason I could see Layla making that move is if she knew that the freshmen were progressing enough in a way where they were going to get a lot of court time, and she wants to take advantage of her last year as a graduate transfer. I mean, and
the interesting question, Bryson, because she entered this week, so in theory, she could be eligible the next semester to play somewhere else, right? That we've seen that with Coach Messer has brought in players halfway through a year.
Yes, she has done that before. So it will be interesting to see where Layla ends up. If she ends up at another Big 12 program. Had she entered this year, she would have been the only one on the team to carry over from the Abe era. So all of a sudden, like the last holdover from the Coach Abe era has now entered into the transfer portal. This is a fully Satia Messer roster now, and that's going. I mean, keep in mind, like, even with Jewett on the roster, the majority of the roster is still Coach Messer. And it's something that I remember that I have been saying about this women's basketball team for a while now, is that Coach Messer has had to basically restock the cupboard ever after she got here. And was going to take time to do that. Caitlin Peterson definitely, I think, helped accelerate the process. Akot and Ngodu, all playing a lot as true freshmen, I think has also been a style of that, and both of them showed a lot of promise. And to answer your earlier question, Eric, I actually think that the non-star player to watch for on this team, I'm not going to say one of the true it's tempting to say one of the true freshmen, but it's really hard to gauge exactly what they are. But I'm actually going to go with Akot, because her last year she kind of ran into some injury issues, and she wasn't and all that. And so I think that how much she progresses this year, I think will be a very in the forward group, that's going to, I think, prove a barometer in how well this team is going to do from on an overall standpoint. But there's a lot of true freshmen on this squad, and so I would look at Emily Rodriguez. Emily Rodriguez was recruited. This was a woman that was recruited by like the best basketball programs in the country, and she chose to come here. And so so it'll be interesting to see how Coach Messer utilizes her. And to me, when I look at this guard group, the only reason I could see Layla Jewett entering the transfer portal is if Emily Rodriguez or Brown potentially are progressing a lot or are showing more in practice than maybe was initially thought.
Possibly, but then Jewett was a good shooter from the perimeter. Do you have that on your roster? Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Your assist leader last season.
Yeah, no, that's so big news there. Bryson Turner wasn't expecting a women's basketball breaking news, but okay, there you go. We'll see how that impacts this week.
Yeah, no, so apologies if you saw my face just kind of looking confused off into the off there, because that was what I was checking. Is I noticed Layla Jewett wasn't here.
Hey, Bryson, you get to ask Coach Messer the question about that in the post game on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun.
Oh boy.
Can't ask softballs, gotta ask the tough ones.
John, I have a question for you, my friend, because this is your first UCF football game in the press conference, in the press box, correct?
It is.
How was it? How was it there? You got treated to a pretty good game as your first time.
Yeah, it was great. It was good to see a win, especially after my very first experience, for the audience might not know, was against Florida. I went to Gainesville with Kyle, and I covered that. And that was a excellent environment. Full respect to the Florida Gators and Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. That was 90,000 strong. And while they were the opponent, I have to give props there. But yeah, this was, to see a team in my first game, the Knights only score 13 points. And now to see what they've racked up today, it's just quite literally night and day. And, overall, the atmosphere at the Bounce House, while it wasn't a sold out game, I mean, it was popping. The crowd was loud. The press box was comfortable. I got to, see a lot of friendly faces, meet a lot of new people as well, with it being a home game. And I'm excited to be back. I believe my next one will be with you, Bryson, because we will be filling in for the absent Kyle Nash for Utah on Black Friday.
Well, we need to make that happen. Very good. More basketball comments coming in, by the way. Keyshawn Hall is a big, strong guard who will need to use his inside game when Dawkins goes to a 4-guard offense. J.J. Taylor is also a guard/forward who's a 6'8" wing guy. I agree, Mark. I'll be curious to see Coach Dawkins. I've heard whispers, try to go more up-tempo. Might see some more 4-guard play. That's become the new norm in college basketball, so that could be another factor to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Mark, that's a great point. Keyshawn was excellent in that exhibition game I covered against FGCU. He's someone who's strong and can finish around the rim. He's great at the line. He's very methodical with how he handles the ball. And shout out to him, a fellow Northeast Ohio native, just a really friendly, well put together person. And I think he's going to be a great addition to this team.
Unbelievable. It's going to be interesting. Should be fun. It gets going Monday for the men's side, women's Tuesday.
I'm sorry, Eric. I know I've thrown you for a loop. I really
am. Did you guys talk to Jewett? Was Jewett in media day?
Yeah,
she seemed excited to be back.
She was. Yeah. It's clearly that this was very much a recent development.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Either that or something was bubbling under the surface. I don't want to speculate too much, but it's interesting because her and Darius Johnson, they're anomalies in the modern college basketball landscape. Yeah. I mean, she was set to be a 4-year player, all at UCF, just like he was. And if she did indeed leave this program right ahead of the season, there's going to be some tough questions.
I kind of agree with Bryson. My instincts tell me this has got to be a playing time issue there. Bryson might be onto something there. It's got to be.
But being such a key part of the team, why would that even be a question unless she wasn't performing well enough in practice?
Or to Bryson's point, maybe the freshmen have a little more upside and they're going to go with them because that's part of the future.
I mean, in that case, then I think that definitely puts a lot of onus on the freshmen to see, all right, let's see what, the coach saw in practice that lead to that. Because if that's because let's say Emily Rodriguez, absolutely balls out and becomes like a star of this team right next to Caitlin Peterson, then I can be like, okay, yeah, now I can see what you're talking about with that. So it'll be interesting to watch this program because I feel like This is the year for Coach Messer that determines what the temperature of her seat is going into the season after this one. If you succeed this year, then it's fine. It's pretty cool. You're safe. But if it doesn't work out very well, or you don't show improvement after last year,
so
that's
all right,
when you up a little.
All right, let's do this then, both of you. What would you consider a successful season for the women's? And then we'll get into the men's prediction here. What would you consider with the women a successful season? In fact, I'm going to give you time to think about that. Let's go to the men's side first, because I want Bryson to look up the women's Big 12 preseason poll, so you can kind of dissect it, because I know the men by memory, because my God, the men's in the Big 12 is insane. We got 5 teams in the top 10 in the Big 12 in men's basketball, including Arizona. So don't worry. They're not going to check out when we go to the McHale Center there. What is a realistic goal here, Don, for the men's UCF hoops teams? I know there's excitement and things like that, but this is just a brutal conference that, to me, just to even have a chance to make the NCAA tournament, you probably got to finish in the top 10 in the Big 12. Top 10! Just to have a shot, depending on the experts. Some people think that the Big 12 could be anywhere from an 8 to 10 bid league. I think you've got 5 teams that could make it to the Final Four. UCF's got to play all of them at least once. So I don't know what's a fair expectation that's going to please people here. What do you say?
Yeah, it's I think this is why Coach Dawkins felt that he had to be so aggressive in the offseason. And he said as much at Media Day. He said they knew that they had to up their talent level. And I think that they did, but it's going to be a tough one. I mean, they barely escaped with an above 500 record last season. Overall, I don't quite remember what their Big 12 play record was. I believe that they were a few games below 500, not quite as bad as the women's.
Well, they won 7. I believe they were 7 wins in the Big 12, which, remember, people didn't think they would win 2 or 3 games going into the year. So I think they surprised a lot of people. They were picked dead last. They did not finish last in the Big 12 from that standpoint. But this league is bigger. Remember, Arizona's in the league. Utah's in the league. Arizona State's in the league. So it's a bigger league, and it's still the number 1 conference. Kansas supposedly is better than last year. They're the pick for a lot of people's pick for the national title. Houston is reloaded. Iowa State brings everybody back. Baylor retools. They're strong. Arizona is strong. A lot of people love Texas Tech and Cincinnati as teams that could be in that 6 and 7 spot. So this league is, and if you're UCF, you've got to do damage in the non-conference and then steal some games at home and win some home games and steal some road games if you can in the Big 12. But it's tough, man. It's tough. And I always say men's basketball at UCF is the hardest job. And I don't know how fair are expectations for men's hoops, because this team might, if they go 7, it's 20 games this year in conference too. Last year was 18, so they went 7 and 11 last year. 20 games this year. They might go 7 and 13, 8 and 12, but that that could get you in the bubble in the tournament. But some people may not be satisfied, and that's what makes this so tricky.
Yeah, that's very true, Elo. They're going to be going against March Madness mainstay programs. And I believe, because like you said, they upped the Big 12 play from 18 to 20. So now that manifests as a double date with Kansas. They play them in the beginning of January with the home opener for the Big 12. And then they have to go on the road and play them again. That's something they didn't have to do last season. And so it's going to be quite the test for this team. They're really going to have to dominate non-conference, because if you lose even a couple of games in non-conference, you're really putting the clamps on yourself, and you've really upped the ante and the pressure to need to win the harder games down the line. So expectations, I don't want to do any record predictions. I think, an amazing scenario for this team would be to qualify for the tournament. I'm thinking probably more of the realm of NIT, though.
Fair. Bryson?
For me, I think we're just looking for progress. I think to expect them to make the tournament is a little bit is premature right now. I mean, let's remember that this is a Big 12 conference that includes the likes of Ayoka Lee from Kansas State, one of the best basketball players in the country, Haley Van Lith on TCU. And Baylor has 2 all preseason, all Big 12 teams in Sarah Andrews and Aaron Vonleh. I'm not going to say that about postseason. I actually think that getting in the postseason, I wouldn't expect that right out the gate. Maybe like let me see. I don't know. I think it was WNIT or like the NIT equivalent.
Yeah, you're talking about the women's for the record. For those
one. Yeah. I think, UCF was projected to finish 14th in the conference, which was the exact same position they finished in last year. It's just that last year 14th was last place. I think that I think it's just you just improve off of that because UCF is actually in the same region as BYU and Cincinnati. Only a few votes separate BYU and Cincinnati from UCF. So Arizona State is also right behind UCF. So I would say that top 10 would be pretty nice. But I think if you're able to just improve on last year, you get a better conference record. I think that would definitely help. They were 3-15 in conference play last year. So if you do better than that, maybe by a few games, like say, I don't know, maybe like 8 games, maybe like if you get 8 games, that would be I wouldn't, if you're just bubbling under 500 in conference play, then I think that would definitely be considered a success in my opinion. But I think you just want to outdo your expectations. That's the big thing, because remember, Messler has needed to restock the cupboard. So you just want to see improvement. You want to see, hey, is the cupboard stocked? And if it looks like we're giving some fight, even if we're not winning every game, especially when it's against the Haley Van Liths and the Ioka Lees of the world, then at least we're showing progress. It's like, all right, let's see what this can grow into. So I think as far as expectations go, I think we should try to expect to be better than what we were before, which was 14th. So any higher than 14th, I would say is a success. I would say a resounding success if it was top 10, potentially, NIT equivalent bound, if that's ends up being the case. We'll see.
We will cover it all on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Basketball, the previews up, what you need to know about the men's and the women's basketball. That's already up on the site. Make sure on the lookout for that. We'll have full coverage from the arena Monday, Tuesday for the respective season openers for those two programs. We'll have post games here on the YouTube channel as well, press conferences and much more. We'll get into more on the two programs, the two teams, as the days and weeks go by. It's certainly on the women's side. There's a lot of interesting topics to get in on that one from the standpoint of interest. Can they get people interested in women's basketball? Case in point, here, some people have tuned out as soon as we talk women's hoops. I'm not surprised by that. Can they turn that around? We'll see. Can the men's turn some interest as well? Keep that momentum from last year where they sold out a lot of games. That will be an interesting storyline. But we'll get into all that another time. But Don's got to work. He's still in the press box. So we're going to let him go. And Bryson's got to do stuff, and I got to do stuff. So we'll do some more hoops talk maybe if not before the opener, certainly next week as well. And Bryson and I still at some point we'll get into some fall ball, baseball and softball down the road. We both have caught some action on both sides. So, but today was a victorious day for UCF football. Dominant performance over Arizona. They will be in Tempe next Saturday night against Arizona State. Arizona State's up 2 touchdowns as we go off the air against Oklahoma State. 28-14. Arizona State's running backs got nearly 200 all-purpose yards. So it's going to be tough to deal with. Plus, their starting quarterback, Levitt's back. So that'll be a good one next Saturday. We'll have a night shift following that game, whatever the time is on that one. Thanks to Kyle Nash for joining us earlier in the show. Thanks to Don. Now in the, what are you, in the coaches presser conference?
Yeah. I'm 2 down from the press box. So,
it's become our place. Thanks for the UCF folks for letting us use that coaches room, the visiting coaching room there. Bryson back home from the stadium. Thank to all of you for your comments and questions. Make sure you subscribe and like on our YouTube channel and check out blackandgoldbanneret.com. Kyle Nash will have his recap, his night class grades coming up later tonight there. So for the whole cast here, Eric Lopez saying so long. Knights victorious. They keep the space game perfect with a dominant performance over Arizona. Good night and charge on this edition of Night Shift.